Welcome to this evening's surprise RootsMagic webinar. My name is Michael Booth, and I'm Vice President of RootsMagic and one of its developers. And also with us this evening is the Roots Magician himself, Bruce Busby. And Bruce, of course, is the President of RootsMagic and its author. And many of you probably woke up yesterday morning, checked your email, and got an unexpected surprise after the Thanksgiving weekend. An email announcing the release of RootsMagic version 5. And we know we've been quiet lately, and it's because we've been hard at work to finish the newest version of our prized genealogy software. And tonight, you lucky folks are going to be the first to see a public demonstration of its new features, like the timeline view, research logs, CountyCheck, and media tagging. And you're also going to learn about many enhanced features like new source tools, mapping, to-do lists, and new reports. And you're going to see for yourself why Family Tree Magazine named RootsMagic the best all-around genealogy program for both casual and serious genealogists. First of all, let's start with a quick poll. The first question that we have is, what new feature are you most excited about? You can only choose one. Is it the Research Manager, the Timeline View, the CountyCheck, the media tagging, or you can't decide? Go ahead and get your votes in. Okay, here are the results. Looks like 30% of you are most excited about the new Research Manager. I can't blame you for that. 20% of you are most excited for the Timeline View. 11% are most excited for the CountyCheck. 5% are excited for the media tagging, and the majority, 34% of you, can't decide which feature you're most excited about. Well, hopefully over the course of this demonstration, you may change your mind, or you may love the feature that you picked at the beginning, but we'll see. And with that, I will turn the time over to Bruce.
Thanks for joining us. What we're going to do is, there's quite a few new features here in RootsMagic 5. And so what we're going to do is we are just going to kind of rip through all of these features fairly quickly. Keep in mind that we will be later on doing more detailed webinars on each of these features. So yeah, don't worry about if I kind of go past these features fairly quickly. Just keep in mind that down the road we will be doing additional webinars. So if I don't spend as much time on the Research Manager, the research logs as you would like, just realize that we will be having a full webinar on that feature. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first thing I'm going to actually show you is one of the things that's kind of the most obvious when you look, and that is this new view here called the Timeline View. Okay, and what the Timeline View does is, it is unlike the other views which show you a whole group of people to navigate around. It shows you the events and the timeline of a particular person's life. So whoever's selected, I'm going to go ahead and select Howie Smith Jr. here, and I'm going to switch to the Timeline View. Okay, and on the Timeline View, you basically have two different options, or two different parts of the screen. The first is this little graphical timeline right here, and you'll notice that there's actually, besides the years, there's two rows. There's the person, and then there's his family members. So these red objects, or these red timeline items, are going to be the events in this person's life. Okay, the blue ones are going to be the events in that person's family members. And by family, we're talking about his immediate family. We're talking about his father, his mother, his brothers and sisters, his spouses, and his children. Okay, so let's move on down to the list, and this is the actual timeline list. So you'll notice that some of these items in this list are bold. Now keep in mind, we're running this at a very low resolution so that it works well with GoToWebinar. You'd actually normally see quite a bit more on your own screen. But some of these events are in bold. The bold events are going to be the events in this person's life. So these are going to be Howie Smith's events. Okay, the other events that are in the italics are going to be the events from the other person's life. Now, RootsMagic in the timeline view is going to show all events from that primary person, but it's only going to show the birth, marriage, and death events from the family members, and that's to keep this timeline from getting so overblown that you can't really tell what's going on in here. And so it will show you what event it was and what the relationship was. The first column is going to show you the age of that
Hey, Bruce.
person. Yeah.
We had one suggestion. You could close down that sidebar to make more room.
Which sidebar? Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a little bit of more room here. It's not going to really help with the number of rows, but you know, like I say, on a normal monitor, you're actually going to see more rows. Okay, in this timeline list, you're going to see the age at any of these events, the event itself, the date for the event, whether or not there's a note or source for that event, and then some details. Okay, so for things like his own events, his birth, his education, there really aren't any details. For items like the occupation, there may be a detail there. And then finally, the place for any of these events. Okay, the details will be filled out, that detail column will be filled out for these other items. The death of a sibling, it's going to show you which sibling or which spouse, which mother, in case you have more than one set of parents entered. Okay, you can do that as well. Okay, now there's a number of really nice little features in here other than just this view. One, you'll notice that when I select an item in the timeline list, it's going to put a little light blue line on the timeline graph to show you where that is. So as I go down through here, the death of a sibling, okay, there it is. Okay, the birth of the spouse. So you can see as I move down through that list, that little bar is moving across the timeline. That's really nice when you get to something like this next one. When I hit occupation, you're going to see that it's going to highlight that entire area across there. Okay, you've got your education, you've got your marriage, your birth, and so on. Okay, so now you're going to be able to see not only in the list but graphically. Now there are some other options up here, reversing the place names. You'll notice that the places by default here are reversed. So when I come up here and unclick on that, you'll notice that those places change back to their normal city, county, state, country. So I can switch back and forth between those. I can also tell whether or not I want to show place details, and I'm not sure I have any place details on this particular file. It doesn't look like I do, but if I did, I would actually be able to turn those place details on and off. Okay, a couple of other little items. One of the things that's nice is if you have notes or sources, one, you'll see a check mark, but another thing that we've added is our little hover tips. So if I hover over that check mark, it's going to actually show me that source. It's going to show me the source or sources without having to click on it and go into that screen. Same thing with notes. If I click on, if I just highlight it, it's going to show me that note. Now it's not going to stay up there a long time. There is a time limit on that, but it will give you an idea of what that note is, so you can decide whether you want to click on it to actually go in and see it in more detail. If you do click on it, you will get the full note editor, and you can actually edit the note right from there. Same thing with sources. If I click on the source check mark, I can come in here and actually work with the birth sources for Howie Smith right here from the timeline view. Okay, the final thing I want to point out is the little person icon. On any of these events where it is a member of the family, if you click on that little person icon, it's going to switch the timeline to that person. So if I'm looking through here and I come across and I see that his mother died right here, I can click on that little icon and I switch to hers. Okay, and so I can navigate from person to person right here from the timeline. Now, if I want to go back to that person, what I'm going to want to do is actually go up here and under the search menu, click on back. And when I click on back, actually it's taken me twice. When I click on back, it's going to take me back to that person. Now I can also customize the toolbar by right-clicking and choosing Customize, going into Commands, and then Search, and I can take that back button and drag that back button up onto the toolbar so that I have it available. I can just come up here and click on that to bring that. Now, I realize I went through that pretty quick. I'm going to be going through a lot of these things pretty quick. We are going to be recording this webinar, and it will be up on our website so that you can watch this at your own pace and see these items. Okay, that's the timeline view. Okay, let's go ahead, hop back to the pedigree view. Research Manager. Okay, I noticed that that was actually the largest number of people that were interested, other than the 34% that couldn't decide, were interested in the Research Manager. So let's look at that a little bit. Okay, there's several places you can get to the Research Manager. One of those is from the Lists menu. When I click on List, I can come down here to the Research Manager. It's a new menu item there, and that will open up what we call our research logs, or our Research Manager. I can create as many research logs as I want. Now, one of the things that we'll probably hear a lot is, what is the difference between those to-do lists that RootsMagic had all along and a research log? Okay, the difference is that the to-do list is where you're going to put stuff that you need to do. What do I need to find for this person? Who do I need to write to? That type of thing. Now, we have tried to go ahead, and in the past we've told people, yeah, you can use the to-do list for a research log by just marking it as completed, but we all really did know that it really wasn't an effective research log. That's why we've added this research log capability. The research log is where you are going to keep track of all the research that you do towards a particular goal. And so you can come up and you can say, I want to add a research log, in which case it'll let you add a brand new research log. And like I say, you can have as many of these as you want, or I can edit one that's already existing. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this one that I already have. Now, this first line, the name of this research log, that's just what's used in that Research Manager list. Okay, you can format that however you want to determine how you want that research log, that master research log list, to sort. The second item here is who or what is this log for? Now, as I mentioned, when you do a research log, it's basically you're going to have some research objective. And that research objective, you're going to say, this is what I'm trying to prove, this is what I want to know more about, and you basically are going to add a bunch of items. Here's all the places I looked towards this objective, towards this goal. Now, you might want to have a research log for a person. In other words, you might create a research log and say, here is all the research I've done for this person generally. Okay? You might do the same thing for a family. You might say, well, I'm interested in his family, but not necessarily a specific person, but I am interested in his family. So you might create a research log for the family. You might have a particular event in a person's life that is just driving you crazy, and you need to research that. So you might be trying to prove a particular person's birth, and you are trying to research everything you can find just to find that birth. If that's the case, create a research log for the event. You may create a research log for a place. There may be a place that you're organizing and or that you're trying to research, and so you can create this place. Now, there's also, you may just have a research log that's just general, that doesn't tie to any of these in particular, and in that case, just select general. Now, as you do this, when you select a type, what the log is for, this field right here is going to let you select from that. So if I'm looking for a person, if I'm making this research log for a person, when I click here, I can select a person. If I go and change that to family, I can click, and I'm asked for a family. If I'm for an event, I select the person, and then I select the event. Okay, I can select which event for that person. Okay, and then finally for a place, I get to select which place it is that I want to create this research log. So I can go ahead and choose kind of who this is for or what this is for. The next item, what is my objective? Okay, in this case, this is the general research log for this particular person. Remember, this database is a fake database. It's just got a bunch of fake names in it. You know, keep in mind that this person is not really going to match any of yours, so you don't really need to look too hard to see if that's the case. Okay, now the big part of the research log, once you've created your research log, set down what your objective is to start adding items, places that you have searched to try to meet this objective. I can go in and I can say I want to add a research item. I'm going to go ahead and edit a research item. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, you're going to have the date you did this search, a reference number, and you can use that for whatever you want. Okay, what were you trying to find? What source did you check? Where did you check? You know, that can be like the library and the call number. And what were the results of this search? Okay, now you may have noticed that when we have you enter your source and repository, we're not forcing you to link to a source that's been entered into RootsMagic. The problem with doing that is that for a research log, you want to document every bit of research you do. So if you go and look in a particular record and don't find anything, you still need to add a research log entry for that, okay? Because what you're trying to do is keep track of everything that you've looked in so you don't go back and keep looking in that same source over and over and over. So you can come in here and enter your research log information, click OK, and it's going to save that. Let's go ahead and add another one. This one we had, you notice that with this many fields, the columns are not wide enough to show you everything. So if you hover over them, it's going to show you the full detail. So this first one, I said I looked in this journal. Well, I'm going to go ahead and add another research item. And I could say, let's go ahead and say I looked in it today. What was I trying to find? Trying to find his birth certificate or his birth date. Okay, what source did I check? Okay, I looked in his birth certificate. You know, be more thorough than just writing birth certificate. But if that's all you want to put, you can do that. Where did you check? County courthouse. And what were the results of your search? I found it. Okay. Obviously, I'm just trying to go through this fast. You know, you'll want to provide the detail, the level of detail that you want in order to do this. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this real quick. Now, and the main reason I'm doing this is just so that I have a couple of items in the research item. I can actually go and search, or excuse me, sort my research log items on the date, on the reference number, on the goal, on the source, okay, on the repository, and on the results. So I can go ahead and just by clicking that little header, I can sort this research log any way we want. Now, what's nice though is the research log is not going to be much use if you can't find what you're looking for. So one of the things that's really nice is as you get more and more research logs, you can use this search field to go actually find the specific research logs you're looking for. Now, this search is not limited to just this title. It's not limited to just the objective. It will actually look in every one of these fields. It will look at the goal. It will look at the source. It will look at the results. Okay, so if I come up here and click on and select search, if I were to type journal and tell it to search, it's not going to look like it changed, but it's selected this. If I select journal 2 and click it, it disappears because I don't have any research log that has journal 2 stored anywhere in that. Okay, so when I put something into search and click on that, it is going to filter this list to only include the research logs that have that text. Now, that text does not have to be consecutive. So if I put in birth and certificate, it's going to find every research log that has the word birth and the word certificate in that. It doesn't have to be together like birth certificate. Okay, it's going to basically look for that group of words in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on because we've actually are a half hour in and we've only shown you 2 features so far. Let's go ahead and show you what's called CountyCheck. Okay, I'm going to go into Dr. James Smith's edit screen here, and I am going to go to his birth, and right now I have him being born in 1907 in Salem, Iowa. I'm going to go ahead and actually change this to 1707. So if I have CountyCheck turned on, if I enter this particular date and place, when I try to save it, RootsMagic's going to come up and say, oh, the Story County wasn't created until January 13th, 1846, and Iowa wasn't created until July 3rd of 1838. So it's basically telling me you've got a problem. That county and that state did not exist on that date. Okay. Now, I can either just say close and leave it at that, or I can say, give me some more information. Now, if I click on give me some more information, it's going to show me Story County, the date it was formed, and the date it was dissolved, if it was dissolved. In this case, it wasn't. So I've got this place. I can go see which county, which places this county belonged to, Iowa and Iowa Territory, and it contains no other places. Now, keep in mind that this CountyCheck, the reason it's called CountyCheck and not place check or city check is because it knows about things at the county level and higher or lower, whichever you want, county, parish, state, country. It knows about those. It does not know about cities. So it cannot verify or validate that a particular city was within a particular county at any time. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a couple more things. I'm looking at Story County. There's a couple of buttons, online information. I'm going to go ahead and click on online information. And what RootsMagic's going to do is it's going to go online and take me to the Family Search Wiki page for Story County, Iowa. So I can come in here and I can see the county courthouses, parent counties. I can see a lot of this detail about this county. Okay. On the other button, the online map, if I click on that, what that's going to do is take me to the Newberry Library historical counties, and this is where I will be able to see, in this case, Iowa, because that's what I was looking at, for a particular date. And I can go in and I can change a date. So if I want to see what the counties looked like in 1900, I can refresh that map, and there's what it looked like in 1900. So I can go ahead and actually see what the counties in this particular area looked like for any date and time. Okay. Now there may be times when if I actually have the correct date, it may still come up. Okay, and in this case, it's saying, oh, you don't have United States and as the country. Now, I can either just say cancel and it'll leave it as it is, or if I want to go ahead and have United States, I can say change and it will add that in there for me. Okay, so that's up to you. Now, if you decide that you don't want this CountyCheck doing this every time, okay, you can go into Tools, come down here to Program Options, and there's a checkbox right here, Use CountyCheck when entering places. If you uncheck that, then it'll turn that CountyCheck off. Now, CountyCheck currently works with the U.S., Canada, the UK, and Australia. Okay, as time goes on, we may be able to expand that to other areas, but those are the counties that we actually have the data on. Okay, Now the CountyCheck does have a second part to it, and what that is a report. So if I go into the reports, under lists, I have a CountyCheck list right here. And I can go ahead and see, you can see right here, check for US, UK, Canadian, and Australia. I'm going to tell it to create the report. Now, I can either have it do this for everybody in my database, or I can select people from a list. I can select a small group of people to run this report on. Keep in mind that this report can actually take quite a while as it goes through and analyzes, because what this is going to do is it's going to look at every event in my file and show me any errors, counties that didn't exist at the time of the event. Okay, it can also show me things like if there are minor corrections that needed to be made to one of my place names, it can do that. Or if I've got a place name that's ambiguous, it can show me possible matches for that. So I'm just going to go ahead at first. I'm just going to leave this on errors, generate the report, and it's going to go through and it's generate this. Like I say, it can take a little bit of time to generate these reports. And once it has this report, like I say, you're going to see the different people, any person that has an event that that isn't correct, it'll take care of that. So for example, birth. This person was shown as being born in Willard, Box Elder County on August 4th, 1854, but Box Elder County was not created until 1856. So it gives you a nice little report of things that, you know, counties that never existed. Story County never existed in Utah, and so on. Okay, so that is CountyCheck. Okay, let's move on. This one's a pretty quick one. We've added some database tools. These are just quick and dirty little things that you can do to kind of check database integrity. You just bring it up and you can run it. Test the database integrity, and that'll tell you whether the integrity of the file is okay. Now, what that means is not that you have everything pointing to the right places. That just means that the actual file format that RootsMagic uses is not corrupt. Okay, you have others. You have the ability to also rebuild your indexes and compact your database. Okay, so those are just compact databases. We'll make your database a little smaller. It'll kind of go and find stuff that's not being used and pull that out of the database. Rebuild indexes is useful if you start to notice things not really pointing to the right places and it's not your own fault. Then rebuild indexes can sometimes take care of that. Okay, let's go ahead and show another one of the reports. Under the lists report, we have a new report here called the On This Day list. And what this does is you can go in and pick any day. So let's just go pick January 1st. We'll just, any day of the year, and you can ask it to include family events, famous births, famous deaths, or historical events. Keep in mind, this is going to really load you up with famous births and famous deaths. And it's going to give you whatever events in your family occurred on that date. So let's go ahead and generate the report. And so here we go. So we have 3 family events in this database. We have a couple of marriages and we have a birth, all on January 1st. It shows you the year, the event, and the person or couple that event belongs to. Famous births, there we go. And like I say, this is going to give you plenty of famous births. You know, sometimes I wonder if these people are as famous as we think, but there's your famous births. There's your famous deaths. And so these are going to be famous people that died on this particular day, on January 1st, and historical events. So here are historical events that happened on January 1st. Okay, and then the year they have. Okay. Now keep in mind, you can go turn those off. So if you don't want the famous births and deaths and all you want are family events and historical events, just do that and you'll get just those. So you can come in and mix and match those however you want. Keep in mind that if you want to filter out some of this stuff, you can also go up to save and save it as a rich text file and then take out the births or the deaths or the events that you don't actually want. Okay. Now let's go to a view that we've had all along, the people view. The people view is is a list of everybody in your file. And this has been in since version 4. And you've always been able to customize this view to add whichever columns you want. And you've always been able to click on a column to sort by that particular column. And you've always been able to show or hide alternate names. What we've added in version 5 is the ability to filter this list. So I could actually come in here and click on this, and what you can do is you can use a feature that's been in version 4 called named groups. And so I don't have any named groups created right now, but I'm going to go ahead and create one. So I'm going to go ahead and create named groups, and I'm going to create a new named group, and I can pick anybody I want. So if I wanted to just go pick random people here, I can do that. And when I say click OK, the name for this group, I'll just call it random people. Okay, let's go ahead and create another group that's actually maybe a little more useful. And instead of just going and randomly doing that, I can say mark a group. So I can mark ancestors or descendants. I can select people by data field. So I could come in and say, I want everybody whose surname equals Jones. So in other words, I just want the Joneses. Okay, it marked 33 people, and if you scroll down, you'll see just the Joneses are marked. Click that, and it's going to be Jones for this group. So I've created a couple of named groups. When I close this out, now I have those groups. I can go and I can filter this list, Jones, and now my people view only includes Joneses, or my people view only includes those random people I selected. So this is a way to get my people view to only include the ancestors of a person or the descendants of a person, or only those people who who were born in California between 1800 and 1850. I can always come right back, show everybody, and I'm right back to where I was before. Okay. Now I'm going to come back into here, and we're going to talk a little bit about multimedia. Okay, I'm going to go into James Smith. Now, there's a few things you'll notice that are a little bit different if you've had version 4, that are a little bit different about the edit screen from version 4. One of those is that it used to be that when you clicked on birth, in addition to a notes and sources and the share button, you also had a button here for media and for the media. When you were up here on a person, you actually had buttons for media and to-do list and address. You had all these buttons. The thing is that each time you moved to a different row, that button meant something totally different. And what we were finding is that, for example, with the media, if somebody would be on a census record, for example, they'd see the media button and they think, oh, I want to add a picture to this person. They'd click on media. That would open up the media album for the census, and they'd add that media item. Well, the next time they came into this person, they'd think, oh, I want to look at that picture, and they'd be on the person row, click the media button, and they'd say, where is that picture I added? They didn't realize that there was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 different media albums from this one screen. Okay, so what we've done is the media album and the to-do list and things like that, we've actually pulled them up to the top of the edit screen to try to simplify things. So when I click on the media album now, this is going to bring up all of the media for Dr. James Smith. This is going to be media items for him, for all of his events, for his families, and so on. So for example, if I wanted to add some new media, I would click on new media. This part works exactly the same as it did before, and I would click on disc, and I would go select, I'd go select a picture, and I would add it to the media. The difference is that when I add a picture, so let's see the dirt road. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the properties. When I add the picture, in addition to what I had before, captions, descriptions, date, and reference numbers, you have a new thing here called tags. And what this lets you do is let's let you actually tag different kinds of records for this same picture. Okay, so I have a picture right here which is tagged to James Smith. I can actually go ahead and tag other things. So I can come in here and say tag, and I can tag people, families, events, sources, citations, places, place details, and names. So I'm going to go ahead and tag a place, and I'm going to go ahead and say Albuquerque. I'm going to go ahead and tag Albuquerque in this place, select it, and I can enter a comment about Albuquerque being tagged in this image. Click OK. Now, when I look at this image properties, I can see that James is using this image and Albuquerque is using this image. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And so when I highlight, as I move from picture to picture, you'll see right here it's going to show me those tags. And I can tag the pictures right from here. I don't have to go into that property screen first. I can actually tag, edit the tags right here as well. Okay, and I can come in here and put, this is the main road through Albuquerque in 1923, whatever. Okay, so that this picture, when I go into the properties, it's got a caption. That caption applies to the picture as a whole. That's one of the things that was different and confusing in RootsMagic 4. In RootsMagic 4, every album you could add a separate caption to this picture. The problem is that most of the time you wanted the same caption for the picture, and you had to keep retyping that caption over and over and over. Okay. Now I realize that if you've been using media a lot in version 4, this is going to seem different. Okay. Just trust me. This is going to become a lot easier for you. One of the things that's great about this is when you go into a picture, let's say you have a family picture. In the past, when you wanted to add that family picture to everybody in that family, you had to go to Dr. James Smith, you had to go into his media album, and you had to add that picture to him. Then you had to go out and you had to go to his spouse. You had to go to his spouse. You had to go into her screen, you had to open up the media, and you had to open up her media album. You had to go to the gallery, find that picture, select that picture again, and add that picture to her media gallery. Then you had to go into each of the 5 kids that were in that picture, and you had to repeat the exact same thing. So you had to keep going in to each person, open up their media album, so find that picture all over again and add that. Okay, there was also a problem that if you didn't say select it from the media gallery, in other words, if you just went out to the file and actually picked that file again, you were duplicating that image over and over and over in your database. You were actually adding that picture to each person's album, but you couldn't look at that picture and see everything that had to do with that picture. Okay, now if I go into my media gallery, okay, and I go down to that particular picture, I can see every place that picture is used. Okay, I can go in and I can see. So for example, if I have a census, let's say I have a census, a picture of a census record, I can actually tag that census not just with the source or the citation that census is tied to, but I can tag that census record with each of the people that are in that census, with the family that's in that census, with the place that's mentioned in that census. So it makes it easy for me to just go look at that one picture and start tagging all of those things that are in that picture right from one place rather than having to go to each of those records. Yes, it's the opposite. It's kind of the backwards from the way that you've done it before. But like I say, just trust me. As you start to work with it, you're going to find it's much, much easier to find a picture, and it's much, much easier to actually use a picture in all those places you want to be able to use that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yes.
A couple questions. First of all, a lot of questions about bringing over your pictures from RootsMagic 4. Are they going to translate into the new media tags?
Yeah. In fact, if you've done that conversion, converting that version 4 into 5 file already, you've noticed that that conversion, if your database has a lot of pictures, that conversion actually takes a little while, because that's exactly what it's doing, is it's converting all of those pictures into the format. In other words, instead of all those zillions of media albums, it's converting them into, it's cleaning up all your duplicate pictures. So if you had a bunch of duplicate pictures, it's cleaning those up, leaving you with one picture, and then tagging that picture with all the things, all the media items that it used to be. Now, let me show you one other thing. There's actually a trick. I want to show people one little trick, because I know that one of the things that people are going to say is, well, if this is bringing this up and it's showing me everything that's attached to all of his events and everything there, what if I want to see just the events attached to that one particular thing? Well, if I want to, let's say on his 70th birthday, I'm going to actually go tag that, and instead of tagging it with a birthday, I'm going to tag it with an event, and I'm going to tag it with retirement. Okay, I'm going to tag it with his retirement event. Okay, so this picture right here, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to delete the one where it's tagged just to him. So this picture right here, oh, it's that one right there. This picture right here is just tagged to his retirement event now. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but right here, there's a list where right now it's showing all the media for him. But if I want to filter that, I can do that. If I want to see just his general pictures, there they are. These are the pictures that are tagged just with him. Okay, if I want to see pictures that are tagged by his birth, there are none. If I want to see pictures that are tagged by his retirement, there it is right there. If I want to see pictures that are tagged by one of his families, there they are, or would be. Marriage, engagement. So I can actually filter, even though this media album by default comes up showing all the media that is tagged to this person, I can filter those individually. Now, if I filter it, one of the things you'll notice, if this is just right here, when I say tag media, it defaults to him. But if I actually have this set to census and say tag media, no, let me go pick retirement. If I say tag media, it's going, well, it's, okay. You notice right here that RootsMagic is still putting these check marks. So when I tagged retirement with a picture, that one picture with his retirement, it put a check mark just like it used to back in the old days with that. And if I click on this checkbox, it's going to open up that media album, and it's automatically going to select the retirement as the filter. You know, I can go switch that back to all media, but it's going to do that. And when I come in to tag the media, well, if I hadn't already tagged it, it would be giving me the option to actually tag the retirement right there. Okay. So go ahead. There are some other questions, Mike? Mike?
Yeah, well, you sort of addressed it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
You sort of addressed it. People had a question about, there's some confusion about whether pictures were still attached to facts and events.
Right, yeah, the pictures.
It wasn't clear the first
yeah,
time through.
When you think of a tag as being adding that picture to that particular multimedia album. Yes, you used to have separate multimedia albums for birth and death and burial and marriage and everything. Now you have one multimedia album, but you can filter that album to make it look exactly like those other albums that you had in the past. The difference is we only have the one media album, so people aren't accidentally putting a picture into the census, attaching it to the census, not realizing that which row they happen to be highlighting in the edit screen when they added that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on because we're kind of running short, and we've got a lot of things. We have quite a few things still here to cover. Okay, let's go to the to-do lists. We've made some enhancements to the to-do list. Okay, if you remember in version 4, the to-do list was basically this column right here. It was just a list of the tasks, and then as you highlighted it, it showed you the information about this task over here on the right. Well, what we've done is we pulled out the status, the priority, and also what type of to-do task it is, whether it's attached to a person, whether it's attached to a family, or whether it's a general to-do item. And I can actually come and I can filter this list in a number of ways. I can say only show general tasks, only show individual tasks, that type of thing. I can say only show me tasks that are priority 3 and above, okay, and it's going to give me that. We also color code this priority on this screen so that it kind of stands out. But you can filter or sort these as well. So if I want to sort by priority, there I go. I've got my list sorted by priority, by task, status. Let me go change the status of one of these. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change the status to completed. So now it's going to show you that one is being completed, and so I can sort by status, and it's going to sort my list that way. Okay. I can also filter based on these different statuses. So if I come over here, if I only want to show to-do items that are actually open, boom, now I only have the ones that are open. The others are still there, I'm just not showing them. So I can come in here and I can actually filter this list to only show the selected to-do items that I want. Now, when you're on a person's edit screen, you'll notice that the to-do button is another one that we've pulled out. And so when I click on to-do, this again, like the media album, is going to show me all the media, all the to-do items that are attached to this person, that are attached to one of his families. And again, I can go in here and filter. So if I only want to see the ones that are attached to him as a person, I can do that. If I only want to show ones that are attached to one of his families, I can do that as well. Again, I have all those same options. I can filter it by priority, and I can filter it by status as well. Okay. Now, one thing I did want to show you right here, let's say I'm in a person's to-do item. Okay, this is the to-do list. It basically has all the fields it had before. We didn't take anything away. We just rearranged them to make everything a little bit cleaner. So this is the to-do. As I mentioned, a to-do task, a to-do list is for things you need to do. Okay, and so you can put things you need to do, the details, where do you need to do it, and so on. What the status is, the priority, the date you started, the date you last worked on it, and the end date. And you can put a reference number in there if you want to tie it to your own stuff. Okay, that hasn't changed. What we have added though is this option right here, transfer to a research log. As I mentioned, your to-do list is here's tasks that I need to do. Once I've done a to-do task, it may be something I need to add to my research log. If it's actual research, if I've actually gone and looked at a source for something, I may want to add that to my research log. If it's something like I just needed to write a letter to so-and-so, when I complete that, that may not be something that needs to go into my research log. So your research log is where you're going to keep track of all the research you've done. So if I did actually want to move or copy this to-do item into the research log because I feel like I've completed it, I click on Transfer to a Research Log. RootsMagic asks me, which research log do I want to transfer it to? And I'm going to go ahead and select the only one I got right here. And it is going to pre-fill that research log entry. Okay, so there's the date. It's pulled the date, the reference number, what I was trying to find, where did I find it, what were the results. I fill in whatever I need to, click OK, and it has now added that. In fact, if I go on out of here, if I come out of here and go back into that research log, Research Manager, you will see right here, there is the, it's this one right here because it's sorting by date. There's the actual research log item. It's just taken from my to-do list, my list of things to do, and actually added it into the research that I've done, into my research log. Okay. The edit screen, actually, there was one thing I wanted to mention on the edit screen that I didn't point out. I did point out how we pulled the to-do list, media, address, those things out up here. We did add a research log button, so if you click on that, that's going to show you all the research logs that are attached to that person. So if you've got a research log attached to James Smith's birth, it's going to show that as well. So all of the research logs attached to him are going to be there. The other thing I wanted to show you is those little hover tips that were on the timeline view are also now here in the edit person screen. So as you move through the notes and sources for the person, you can hover over and see the actual notes and sources without having to click on them first. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to talk about sources. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the sources. Okay, this part hasn't really changed a lot, the actual citation manager, which is the list of my sources. What we have changed is the edit screen for sources. Okay, this is our new edit screen for the sources. Now, the data that you see here is exactly the same data that you've had all along. We haven't taken any fields out. We haven't combined fields in with each other. We haven't done any of that. All we have done is taken those buttons. If you remember, we had a more button for the master source and a more button for source details, and you had to dig through just to even remotely try to find any text, any pictures, any of that kind of thing. So what we've done is we've pulled those out into tabs. So when you first come in, you're going to have your citation. You're going to have the title, which is what shows in the master source list, and then either your free-form source like this or your templated source if you happen to use one of those. And so you're going to see that over here. The second tab is what's called research notes. Okay. Now I'm going to mention a couple of things right here. This detail, this is your detail reference number. Okay, that's the same as the field that used to be right here. What we've done is we've simplified these screens so there's not so much stuff on one screen that you can't figure out what you're doing. Okay. We also have what are called research notes. Okay. In the past, this was actually called detail text. Okay. We've actually named it research notes because that's really what your detail text is. Your detail text is where you would have taken and made a summary or transcribed or extracted text from the source. Okay. We've actually called it research notes to better match up what Elizabeth Schoen Mills. This is what Elizabeth Schoen Mills actually calls detailed text. Whenever she has her research notes, this is the field she puts those in, is the research notes, or what was called the detailed text field. So it's now called the research notes field. Okay, and then this comments, that's what in the past was called your detail comments. Okay, the source text and the source comments are still here. You still have that. And this is where you're going to put text and comments about the master source. Anything that you put in here or change here is going to be reflected for every single place that source is cited. The research notes are specific to this use of that citation. In other words, we happen to be using it for this person's birth. So these research notes have to do with why this source is useful for this person's birth. Okay, we've pulled the quality out. There's your quality. We do the BCG standard. Your source, information and evidence. We did a source webinar that if you have any questions on how this works, you can look at that. Your repositories are right here, just like they were before. Like I say, they're on tabs instead of buttons. Media. Okay, the media album, this is actually going to show you all the pictures that you've attached to both the master source and the specific citation. So for example, if you've got a source that's a book and you happen to scan the title page of that book in and attach that to the source, that will show here. On the other hand, if you have a scanned image of the page in that book that talks about his birth, and you've added that, that is also going to show here. So you're going to see all of the scanned images having to do with the citation right in one place. Like the person media gallery, you can say, only show me the pictures attached to the general source, or only show me the ones attached to this citation, to the details. So you can filter that there as well. Again, you have your tagging, all of that as well right here. Okay, so that is the new source entry screen. Now I'm going to actually show you one thing on adding a new source. When we add a new source, I'm going to go in here and enter a vital record, local certificate. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to add a birth certificate. Okay, now you'll notice that when you first come into this, that field right there where you normally used to have to put the title of the source, in other words, what is this source going to be called in the master source list, it's not showing there. The reason for that is because users were confused and they didn't know exactly what was supposed to go in there. So we're simplifying, streamlining this data entry. We're setting them right into entering the actual citation, and we'll do the other part later. So the jurisdiction, Avon County, Iowa, the series, I don't know, 123-45, the name of the repository, County Health Department, okay, the Avon, Polk, Avon, Iowa. The type of certificate, okay, this is for his birth, so it's going to be a birth certificate. Okay, certificate number 999-888. The certificate date, okay, January 1st, 1907. And the ID of the person, John Doe. Okay, obviously use the real information. Don't be making up stuff like I'm doing here. But as I type this stuff in, you'll notice over here, it's writing my footnote, short note, footnote, and bibliography just like it did before. What's nice is I can come easily in here and I can enter my research notes. I can add my media, enter the quality of this right here. I can say, yeah, this was an original. Since I'm using this birth certificate for his birth information, that's primary. If I was using it for parent information, that would be secondary. And if that actually has the birthplace and the birth date, that's direct evidence. So I fill in whatever I want here and click OK. And now RootsMagic will ask me for that master source name. Okay, and it's telling me exactly what it's for. And so I'm going to say, okay, this was a vital record, birth, Doe, comma, John, you know, whatever. No, actually, I'm not going to do that. Birth, Iowa, Polk County. Okay, and I'm going to do it this way because what it's wanting is the master source. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and so there's my master source, vital record, birth certificate, Iowa, and Polk County. There's all my details. Okay, now the next time when I do go in and edit that, when I go in and edit that particular one, you'll see now I could change that master source name if I want. Like I say, what we've done is streamlined it so the user does not have to get confused trying to figure out what the heck that is supposed to be before they've even entered it. Okay, let's go ahead and move to a couple of reports. One of the things we've done, we've had a lot of requests for this. Under the list, we've got a thing called a descendant list. Well, one thing I'm going to point out, this, when you selected this list category, this used to be just completely unwieldy. We've pulled some of these lists out into the research reports. So like your source list, repository list, the to-do list, the research logs, all of that is now under research reports. Anyways, what I want to show you here is this descendant list. And in the past, you basically had a few options. You pick that starting person, the format of the list, and you didn't really pick the numbering style, and you'd get a report that looked something like this. You'd have the person, the starting, the generations, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and these numbers would basically be the generation number. Well, now I can actually come in here and I can change that generation numbering. So instead of being 1, 2, 3, I can actually go and say I want to use Dobbleville numbering or Henry numbering, generate the report, and there's the Dobbleville, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.7, 1.7.1.2, and so on. So you can change that numbering. You can also, there's a format called word wrap. So if you want to really get a lot of information in a more compact report, you can choose the word wrap, which is a new option. And what that is going to do is that is going to take the person and it's going to word wrap, but it's going to give you their birthplace, birth date, death place, marriage information. It's going to give you a lot more information. And again, in this case, I'm still using that Dobbleville numbering. Now finally, and this is the feature that we've really gotten a lot of requests for, is that instead of doing a full descendancy, I may want to do a direct line descendancy. Okay, and what that means is instead of taking that starting person and doing all of his children, all of his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on, I want to pick the descendants just from him down to one particular descendant. So when I do that, I can select that other descendant and then just generate the report. And what I'm going to get is I'm going to get that direct line descendancy. What's really nice is that if I use something like the Dobbleville numbering, it is not doing 1.1.1.1.1.1. It's actually using the correct position of that child within the family. So in other words, Jane Smith and Betsy, they had a child, Ruth, so you got the seventh child of the first person, the second child of the seventh child of the starting person, the second child of the second child of the seventh child of that first person. Okay, so you now have that option, and you can mix and match that word wrap, the Dobbleville numbering, and the direct descendancy reporting. You can mix and match those all you want. Okay, let's go in, and I'm going to go into place list, and in the places, in the past we had these first three. You could print all of the places in your database. You could print all the places in your database and include all the events that happened in each place, or you could print a single place with all the events. Well, now you can also say print all the events near a place. And so when you do that, you can choose the radius, in other words, how far away from this place you want to have, and you can choose the starting place. And this uses the place database. So for example, let me delete all these so I can kind of show you how this worked. If you come in here, if I just type in Ames, Iowa, when I tab out, it's going to actually put in the full place name and the latitude and longitude. Or I can click look up and actually look up places. So I pick the place I want, how far away from that I want, and I tell it to generate the report, and I'm going to get a list of all the places within 50 miles in this case, along with the events that occurred within that distance. So this is a really nice thing. If you're going to a particular location and you want to see what events in your database happened within a 5-mile or a 10-mile radius of this place you're going to, so that you can maybe do some research, you can use this report to help you out with that. Okay, I'm going to show you one little feature that we've added in the mapping, in the online mapping. So I'm going to go into mapping. Now when you go into the mapping, you've been able to select a place. You can pick a place and it'll bring up the map for that place. Or you've been able to select people and go ahead and pick a person. Let's go ahead and pick Howie Jr. You can pick a person, and it would put the little pinpoints where the events in that person's life occurred. So you can see actually what that place is, and you can see it'll actually take it to the level of your place details if you want. Okay, so you can just go over there and see what happened in this person's life and where. Well, what we've added is the ability to include family members. So if you check that checkbox, it's going to take this person's parents, siblings, spouses, and children's events and include them on here as well. So when you select a place, in addition to seeing just that person's events, you'll also see the events in the other family members' lives. Okay, so that's just kind of a little quick thing that we've added there. Okay, place list. We're going to go to place list. We're going to wrap this up with just a couple of little quick things here. In the place list, this is similar. One difference is that we've added the place details. So when you select a place, you can see what place details there are. And if there happens to be a picture if this place happens to be tagged in a picture, you'll actually see that over here as you scroll through the list. You'll actually see that particular picture there. Okay, last thing I want to show you, like I say, there's lots of little things. The last thing I want to show you, actually, one of the things people have asked about is there a way to change this font, like on the edit screen and on the search list on the Explorer screen? Can you change those fonts right there? Because on some systems, if you use a really high resolution and have your font, those fonts can be pretty tiny. So what you can do is go to Tools, go to Program Options, select Display, and you have a thing here called the List Font. And what this List Font does is it is going to, if I want to make the font smaller, let's go ahead and pick a tiny little font. If I think that font's too big, I can do that. And that font, the places that font affects are going to be this side list, this edit screen, so if you want to be able to see more information, there you go. Pick a tiny little font if you got good eyesight, and you can see that right there. And then also the search screen. The search screen's in the search list. Okay, if you don't want it that small, go back into the program options, into the display, the list font, pick something massive. If you really have a hard time seeing, there you go. Okay, and so you can have fun with that. Make those fonts as luckily if the font is too big, it'll put the little 3 dots, the little ellipses, and when you hover over it, it'll show you the whole thing. So you can kind of play with that. Like I say, we had a lot of requests to be able to change that particular font on the screen. So you can do that. Okay, so we have a few minutes for any questions, and then I think we're going to have one more poll, and we're going to and then we're going to have some prize drawings. So any questions, Mike?
Okay. Let's see. One person asked about using Google Maps instead of Bing Maps on the mapping.
Okay, yeah, the reason we don't do that, Bing Maps has what's called an API, which is what we use to do this, be able to access, and that API is free, unlimited. Google is going to charge per copy that we sell to use their mapping API. We have to get a special key from them and do that. So if they ever make it to where it's free, so we don't have to raise the price of the program to $50, we'll consider adding that as a option. But for now, we're using the free option.
Okay, and there are a lot of questions. People are concerned about moving their data over from RootsMagic 4 into 5. Is anything lost? Is any of their work lost or anything like that? Yeah.
RootsMagic 5 is not going to lose any information when you convert from version 4 to 5. When you convert to 4 to 5, all RootsMagic actually does is it opens up your RootsMagic 4 file and it actually adds fields. It actually adds one new table and adds some new fields. It does not delete anything. So what it's doing is actually adding fields to your existing version 4 database. So no, nothing's going to get lost. Now that being said, when you do your conversion, you may want to make a backup of your version 4 file first. Okay, so in other words, run your version 4, make a backup of your file, and then that way when RootsMagic 5 comes up and you try to open that version 4 file, RootsMagic is going to come up and say, hey, we need to convert this file over to the version 5 format. Do you want to continue? And it tells you, if you continue, the only way to get data back from 5 to 4 is to create a GEDCOM and import that back into 4. That's why you may want to keep a backup copy of your version 4 file. Now, when you install RootsMagic 5, one of the screens is going to say, hey, we just saw an older version of RootsMagic on your computer. Do you want us to uninstall that? Okay, if you say yes, RootsMagic is going to uninstall version 4 and install version 5, and it's going to move your settings from version 4 over to version 5. If you say no, RootsMagic is going to leave version 4 on your computer, and you can have version 4 and version 5 both on your computer. Now, if you do that, keep in mind that the version 4 and the version 5 file formats are different, so you're not going to be able to use version 4 and 5 on that same file. Because if you try to open that version 4 file with 5, it's going to say I have to convert it. If you try to open a version 5 file with 4, it's going to say that file was created with a newer version of RootsMagic and we can't open it. So if you want to use them both, keep in mind you're going to have to keep a RootsMagic 4 copy of your file and a RootsMagic 5 copy of your file. Okay, any other questions?
Okay. Pretty much a lot of people are asking about RootsMagic To-Go, if that is still in RootsMagic 5.
Okay, yes, RootsMagic To-Go is still in RootsMagic 5, and as I was talking about before, if you install RootsMagic 4 and 5 on your computer, you will have RootsMagic To-Go 4 and RootsMagic To-Go 5, and they basically each work independently with the version of RootsMagic they come with. So RootsMagic To-Go 4 installs RootsMagic 4 on your flash drive. RootsMagic To-Go 5 installs RootsMagic 5 on your flash drive.
Okay, yeah, and we're getting a lot of questions about general features. Just a reminder to everyone, we have almost 30 webinars which are available at rootsmagic.com/webinars on everything from pictures to RootsMagic To-Go to sources, multimedia. And even though those webinars were made with RootsMagic 4, that the content is, for the most part, all applicable to RootsMagic 5. And we'll continue doing more webinars on these features and other features using RootsMagic 5 in the future.
Okay, I see one question that I actually want to answer. The question is, because I've had a lot of people actually ask this, and that has to do with this timeline view. They were asking, is there a way to print this timeline view? The answer is you can't print this particular exact view right from here. But what you can do is if you go into the reports and go to lists, there's a report, and this report has actually been in RootsMagic, version 4 since day 1. But this timeline chronology list, what you'll do is you'll pick that, you'll say create it, and what you want is the individual timeline list. Now, if I click generate report right now, it's only going to include his events. Okay. What I want to do is select others to include in the timeline. So I can say select people from the list. And when I do that, it brings up this list of everybody in my file. So I can go down here to that person I was working on, Dr. James Smith, and I can say mark a group, and I can say mark his family. And when I do that, which family? And I'll just mark them all. I can mark the one where he's a parent with this spouse, where he's a parent with this spouse, and where he's a child with that set of parents. Click OK. Okay, I've now selected that group of people to be included with this, generate the report, and there is basically a printout of that same type of report. Okay, in other words, you have the age, you have the date, and then you have the event. You also, the advantage of this particular report is you also have sources. If you want to include the sources for these events, you can actually include those in there as well. So although the timeline view does not have a print button which prints exactly what you see on the screen, you can use that timeline report to get that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on. We have another poll that we want to do.
Now that we have actually watched the features demonstrated, let us know what feature are you now most excited about? The Research Manager, Timeline View, CountyCheck, Media Tagging, or still can't decide? Okay, and here are the results. Research Manager now gets 37% of the vote, whereas before it got, let's see, about 30, I believe. Timeline View gets 11%. CountyCheck gets 15%. And media tagging, I think, is the biggest jump. It went up all the way to 23%. And a lot of the fence sitters, that used to be 36%, that has dropped down to 14% for Still Can't Decide. Okay, now let's do a prize drawing. And excuse me, the first thing we're going to give away is a copy of RootsMagic 5. And what I'll do is we will go by the raising of the hands. So I'm going to lower the hands, everyone's hands. Don't raise your hand yet. Okay, keep those hands down. And then the 437th person to raise their hand will receive a free copy of RootsMagic 5. And Bruce, can you go ahead, when we announce the winner, can you go ahead and contact them and get the information from them? Okay, so hold on. I'm going to put down everyone's hands, and then I'll count down from 5, and then raise your hand. And it's the 437th person. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And the winner is, right, James Mansfield. So Bruce, if you can get James's information.
Yeah, so James, so James, if you just want to type your name and address in as a question, then I'll see that.
Okay. Next, we'll give away a copy of Personal Historian 2. So, and this will go to the 107th person to raise their hand. So I'll count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And this goes to Jennifer Howard. Wins the copy of Personal Historian 2. Okay, and then we'll do one more prize drawing, and this is for another copy of RootsMagic 5. And this will go to the 258th person to raise their hand. So all hands down. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. And this will go to Herb Mellinger, or Mellinger. Congratulations, you've won a free copy of RootsMagic 5. So both of you type in a question into the question box with your name and your mailing address, and we'll ship out a copy to you. And just a reminder to everyone, if you already have RootsMagic 4, you can upgrade to RootsMagic 5 for $19.95 on our website, rootsmagic.com. And because this is Christmas, we are also running the holiday special. So if you go to rootsmagic.com/holiday offer, there are special links there where you can buy as many copies of RootsMagic, Personal Historian, or Family Atlas that you like, family and friends. Looks like we have had a lot of questions asking when will the new book about RootsMagic 5 be available. That will be coming out in early 2012. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And there were a lot of questions this evening. I'm sorry we couldn't answer each one of them personally. Got as many as we could, but feel free to try out the free version of RootsMagic and 5 and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.